Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today we're doing our first monster breakdown of 2022. Breaking down the Destroyer of Venus, the Slayer of Worlds, Monster Zero. King Ghidorah flies in to be broken down, and just by looking at his stats, you can immediately tell that this guy is meant to be a huge threat. 7 out of 8 attack, 7 out of 8 defense. These are two of the highest rankings in the game, mind you. Only 2 monsters beat him in those respective categories, and they take 1 each. We covered one already with Anguirus' 8 defense, and that guy's defense is so high because he has the best block in the game. King Ghidorah just does not stop to blunt attacks. Blunt attacks actually take a step down in reaction to him, unlike Megalon, who takes the step up. His only real weakness is relatively slow speed at 3 out of 8, but that doesn't mean that King Ghidorah can't move when he needs to. And his weapons are rated at a 6 out of 8. He attacks with sharp attacks primarily, and with blunt attacks secondarily, although as you'll see, he has a relatively decent balance of the two for his melee attacks. He also unleashes electric and sonic attacks, fairly rare in this game for ranged attacks. He resists blunt attacks, as mentioned before, considerably, but he also resists electric, sonic, and alien energy attacks quite well. His only weakness is the rarest and weakest attack type in the game, poison, meaning that, basically, King Ghidorah has no weaknesses. So, let's take a look and study King Ghidorah from a playable standpoint. What kind of a monster does this alien triple-headed dragon bring to the table? And we'll be fighting next week's contestant, the legendary Mechagodzilla 2. And we'll go to Osaka this time. Now, King Ghidorah is about one thing and one thing only: brute force. You'll see a lot of his attacks hit multiple times and hit pretty damn hard.
Versus Mechagodzilla 2. Monsters, fight!
Let's do this. So, one thing to note is that Mechagodzilla 2 actually has a resistance to sharp attacks, so take note that the sharp attacks are generally one step down in terms of their reactions, like his basic attacks. Now, if only I can actually hit him. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 4-hit string that is very rare in Godzilla Save the Earth to have that many hits on the string, especially with hits that normally flinch. His forward attack is a lunging bite with deceptively good range. That's one thing you'll notice with King Ghidorah, is that while his attacks have some commitment to them, they've got pretty impressive range. Put me down. Next up, we have his up punch, which launches opponents and can be, more importantly, cancelled into his flight, because King Ghidorah is capable of flight. This is that mobility option I was talking about earlier. Not to mention that he has probably the best long jump in the game. It's slow, but it covers a lot of range. He also has a back throw, which is, as far as I know, unique to King Ghidorah, but Mecha King Ghidorah may have something similar, because they're very similar characters. He's one of the few characters capable of throwing a monster from behind with his tail. Well, with his tails. His back punch is a blunt hammer fist slam. Because King Ghidorah is considered airborne, he is actually immune to throws once his feet leave the ground. And his down punch is a triple uppercut that is pretty solid and sends opponents flying, especially if their name is Megalon. His basic throw is nothing to write home about, so let's move on to kick attacks. His basic kick attack was changed from Destroy All Monsters Melee, and was given to and was kept in Mecha King Ghidorah so that they weren't complete clones of each other. So you could do kick, kick, kick into the uppercuts, because that's the only thing it goes into. Then we have his flying dropkick, which has really good range and is pretty good at moving in. And there's a little bit of moving back as well from the attack. So cover a lot of ground and step back, giving you ample distance. His normal kick became his forward kick, which staggers most opponents and sends them flying. His up kick is a very slow overhead that will knock down basically any monster, because he brings down his full weight on the monster. And is, of course, immune to throws because he's considered to be flying in the process. His down kick is not a normal stomp. It's a triple stomp, allowing King Ghidorah to hit you 3 times with overheads, which if you're not ready for, it's going to sting. His rage attack, which I believe is Raging Storm, isn't the greatest rage attack in the game in terms of sheer damage or range, but it's really good at clearing an area. This means King Ghidorah actually has a relatively weak super. That's his kick throw, by the by. And finally, we're going to finish this off with his flying kick attack, which can be repeated multiple times to both get distance and hit opponents, as one might expect, multiple times. Now let's move on to fierce attacks.
Monsters, fight!
Most of these are sharp, mind, but most of these are sharp, so we won't be able to see them as well. But we'll start with the basic double tail swipe into his reverse tail swipe, which is back and fierce. This puts his back to him and will allow him to hit once with his tail or go for that back throw, which has deceptively good range. Fierce punch is the flying hammer fist, and fierce kick is the flying dropkick. Now that I have an energy power up, I can demonstrate to you his special move, a heal. He spends all of his energy, or King Ghidorah spends all of his energy to heal himself by a not insignificant portion. Most monsters don't get this much heal. Most monsters only get this kind of heal from health packs. And if the monster's at point-blank range, like right in your faces, those gravity beams can actually hit the opponent. His up fierce is a cool little backup attack. Okay, it looks like our cable problems continue. For those not in the know, I've been kind of wrestling with this cable that has a very odd tendency to slip out of my controller, thus losing the connectivity to the computer, thus, well, forcing me to reset recording because I was in the middle of an explanation, and, well, there you go. We're going to start back from the fierce attacks, just because I don't exactly remember how far I got. No, wait, hold on a minute. I do remember. We were talking about the gale attack before this game decided to be before things decided to be an asshole. You know? Let me just make sure that the right thing is actually recording. Okay, good. Okay, let's get back to it, and we'll try and make this quick. So, we're already talking about King Ghidorah, as you know, so I'm not going to go back into it. We're just setting the fight back up. So, Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, Osaka. Let's do nighttime this time. Just because, you know, it's technically a different clip, and I figure why the hell not.
King Ghidorah versus...
Oh yeah, way more menacing at night.
Monsters, fight!
Let's go back to fierce attacks. So, the up fierce attack is this gale force attack, is this gale wind. It doesn't have great range, but what's more important about it is that it backs Ghidorah up, keeping monsters out of range of most of their attacks while King Ghidorah goes for his own. There's a stronger version of this we'll talk about later, but right now we'll very quickly cover his sweep. It's a sharp sweep, it knocks the opponent down, nothing to write home about. When you fly as King Ghidorah and hold the fierce button, you get this monstrosity, pushing the monster back full screen and doing pretty decent damage, actually. Now we'll cover King Ghidorah's ranged attacks once I've, back up. It is his gravity beams, which the more energy he puts into them, the more heads fire. Between 1 and 6 energy, I believe, is 1. And then 6 and 11 is 2. When you go full tilt, you will get all of the heads firing at once. Oh, also his Fierce Throw is one of my favorites in the game. Juggle, juggle, boot. There we go. Look at that juggle combo. We got Mortal Kombat combos in here. But you can also use these in the air, like we're thrown in. It costs 5 energy cells instead of 3, but you're still using your electric attacks from the air. And that pretty much covers King Ghidorah. He's got enough to make him, you know, not just a Godzilla clone or whatever.
KO.
King Ghidorah has won.
You win.
And he is actually quite terrifying, with the ability to fly, unique breath attacks, very strong attacks overall, and many multi-hitting attacks that really put the hurt on. Next time, we're going to take a look at Mechagodzilla 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to be awesome, and I'll see you guys on the other side.